Earn all you can, but live on 80%. Save all you can, a good goal, 10%. Give all you can. The biblical standard is a tithe, 10%. 80, 10, 10. Earn all you can, save all you can, give all you can. This is the money strategy we are suggesting you consider. It comes from a sermon by John Wesley in the 1700s and has proven to be pretty good advice for many people since then. We are continuing our sermon series on Jesus, on money. Last week, we talked about earn all you can. Next week, Stewardship Sunday, we'll talk about give all you can. Today, save all you can. For the purposes of this sermon, I'm equating saving and investing. Those aren't necessarily the same things, but they overlap, and what I'm talking about is putting money away for a future use, assuming that over time the money will go to work and increase. Jesus tells a fascinating parable about investing. This painting is entitled The Lord of the Parables, and it's by a contemporary Latin American artist, Jorge Coco Santangelo. And I really like him, so I'm going to show you some other paintings by him during this sermon. Before I tell you the parable of the talents, here's how I'm reading it. This parable is about the money. And also, it's about far more than the money. A wealthy man is planning to go on a long journey. He summons his servants and distributes his wealth among them so that they will manage his money while he is away. Same artist, painting of this parable. It's a great deal of money he's giving to these servants. It's measured in talents. Talent is a large object that represents actual wealth. A talent might weigh 80 to 100 pounds, and it is the equivalent value of 20 years of work for an ordinary worker. So this wealthy person is giving the servants quite a bit of money to hold in trust for him until he returns. Another word for what he's asking of the servants is stewardship. He is asking his servants to take care of his money, to be stewards of his trust. The first servant receives 5 talents. That's 100 years worth of labor. He takes the money to market, he invests it, and he doubles it. Obviously, he's taken some risks with the money. It's not easy to double money in a short period of time. The second servant receives 2 talents, and he does the same thing. He invests it, he risks it, and he doubles the money. The third servant receives 1 talent. He takes a different approach. He digs a hole in the backyard, puts the money in the ground to keep it safe. It's not that he's a bad servant. He's just prudent. He's cautious. He's not taking any chances. The wealthy man returns. He's delighted with servants 1 and 2. He lavishes praise upon each of them. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Servant 3 proudly presents the master with his money intact. Here it is, all of it, safe and sound. But the wealthy man does not compliment servant number 3. Instead, this is one of the most harshest critiques of anyone found in the Bible. He calls him wicked and lazy, and he takes the money away, gives it to the other servants, and kicks servant number 3 off the property. This parable is about the money. One way to read it is to see this as a warning not to hoard money, but to invest it wisely, to make it work for ourselves and for others. And if we want to make money, we're going to have to invest it. Investing always involves risk. But over time, something miraculous may happen with our investments. Albert Einstein is often credited in saying compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. If you understand it, you earn it. If you don't, you pay it. Now, it's doubtful that Albert Einstein actually said this. No one can find where it was written down that he said that. But nonetheless, the concept is true. Compound interest is when you continue to invest what you make on principal so that the interest is earning interest, and it creates a curve going up. If you want to experience something miraculous in your life, invest 10% of what you earn every year and don't touch it for 30 years. And at the end, you will be incredibly blessed with what has taken place due to the miracle of compound interest. So, this is great advice. Save all you can and keep doing it. This parable is about money, but it's also about far more than money. Jesus uses money to teach us what is really valuable. The more significant subject of this parable is stewardship. Not stewardship of our money or our wealth, but stewardship of our lives. Each of us is given a set number of days, a finite number of days. And some of us have more, some of us has less. But the question is always the same. What are you doing with your number of days? Stewardship is you and I knowing and appreciating the value of our lives and deciding to be responsible about who and what we invest our lives in. Harvey Cox is a theologian at Harvard Divinity School. He's 90 years old. He says that the human dilemma is not that we are too proud or too puffed up or think of ourselves too highly. The human dilemma is that we don't think of ourselves highly enough, that we don't reach far enough, that we don't care enough, that we don't love enough, that we don't speak out enough, that we don't take stands enough, that we do not reach our full potential of our humanity. The name for this condition is sloth. Not this kind of a sloth. Sloth as one of the 7 deadly sins of the early church. Sloth is not caring or not loving or not rejoicing. Sloth is playing it safe, investing nothing, being overly cautious or prudent. Sloth is digging a hole and burying the money in the ground. Now, we should all know when Jesus tells this parable. At what point is he in his life? Is he just sitting around talking to the disciples and thinking about things, or what is going on. Jesus tells this parable the last days of his life. He's entered Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in the midst of wild celebrations and chaos because it's Passover. Jews from all over the world have gathered there, and that means the Roman soldiers have gathered there to keep the order. Rome is crawling with soldiers. Jesus will be perceived as a threat to the peace by the Romans and a threat to the religious order of things by the Jewish authorities. Jesus' friends tried to talk him out of going there. The risk was too great. Nonetheless, Jesus goes to Jerusalem. He rides into town on a donkey. It creates a demonstration among the poor people and others there. And then things go from bad to worse. The next day, Jesus goes to the temple. He casts out the money changers. Big commotion. And then he tells this parable. It's about money. But more importantly, it's about what are you investing your life in? Because Jesus is just about to go all in and be arrested and put on trial and convicted and tortured and crucified. This parable is about money, but it's about far more than money. It's about living. It's about what we are investing our lives in. It's about taking risks. It's about investing our lives in being a follower of Jesus Christ. And what this parable does is ask us, how much? How much are we in? How much are we in for? This week, we're going to ask you to prayerfully consider making a financial pledge to the Grosse Presbyterian Church for 2020. It's about the money. It is stewardship season. We're thinking about budgets. We're thinking about numbers. We're thinking about what we want to do next year. And please know we appreciate your prayerful consideration and your pledge. Please bring your pledge card with you next Sunday. We're going to commit them in worship as an act of worship. It's about the money, but it's not only about the money. It's about far more than the money. It's about the stewardship of our lives and what we're investing our lives in. And I hope and pray that you perceive this church as worthy of your investment. We are not perfect, but we are not a bunch of sloths here. Do you know there is no noun for a group of sloths? They're not a herd, they're not a pack, they're not a mob, they're not a parliament. You know what a parliament is a group of? Owls. Sloths are solitary animals. They live by themselves. You know what you call a group of people who invest their lives in following Jesus? A congregation. The opposite of sloth. We are a community of people who invest our lives in following this one and committing ourselves to doing God's work in the world. We are a community of people, a congregation who are serving God together. We aren't just a random group of people. We are here because God has brought us together. and entrusted us with a ministry and a mission and given us talents to get out there and do it. What are you investing your life in?